The move to talk about bringing Ukraine into the UN.
Ukraine was also Russia is part of the UN. You know that?
Yes. What was
also Ukraine is? You know.
What was the? What
it's
was
not about the UN. I don't know why I keep mentioning the UN.
The boundary right between Russia and Ukraine was separated by what organization? Because one was.
They made an agreement. Russia and Ukraine made an agreement when the Soviet Union collapsed. There were referendums in every single state of Ukraine. Every single Ukrainian state, modern day, pre-2014 invasion of Ukraine, every single one of them voted to join Ukraine. So they agreed to join Ukraine. They wanted to be with Ukraine. That's not debatable. That's a fact. And Russia has actually recognized it. No, they're not.
They're not. Ukraine are. So
Ukraine is not
I
part
was
of
saying
the EU.
UN. I thought they're part of the. So it was the
Ukraine
EU.
is not part of the EU. Ukraine is not part of NATO. But both Ukraine and Russia are part of the UN.
If Ukraine became part of the EU, they would be defended by the UN, right? By the military.
They're already supposedly defended by the UN.
Well, the UN don't have.
No, it's not.
My friend, UN is not linked to the EU exclusively. UN includes basically every country in the world. You know, of course, UN condemns countries like North Korea and blah 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 because of their human
rights violations. The United Nations have their own force, right? They have their own military force.
But they don't really do much. They really don't do much.
Well, but what I'm saying is that if they were out on anti, let's say they're out in like Niger or somewhere like that, right? And they're fighting some sort of militant group there.
Yeah, like the Wagner group.
Yeah, for example, right? Private militia or something like that, right? So I get where you're coming from in terms of like anti-Russian sentiment, right? And I think
it's not anti-Russian; it's anti-Russian state. You know, by saying anti-Russian, it could be interpreted that I have something against the Russian ethnicity. I don't. The main issue I have, again, it's what I mentioned before. This is not for me. This is not a discussion about ethnicity. This is a discussion about internationally agreed rules and laws. Russia has agreed. Russia has broken their agreement. That's my main point.
But we can also talk about legislation. But at the end of the day, you know, Chamberlain came back from the Axis meeting with Mussolini and Hitler with a peace treaty in his hand. Okay, and everyone can talk about treaties, organizations that have certain decrees, and we can all talk about someone's word, people being as good as their word, kind of thing, right? Well, my point is, at what point do we acknowledge that the environment, the political landscape is shifting so quickly, and leadership domestically in these countries is shifting so often that you can't really trust someone's word necessarily.
It's not about shifting leadership. I don't think so. Well, in Russia, leadership has remained exactly the same, and we can't trust Russia.
Okay, but what I'm trying to say is that in general, surely we should be more nuanced in the way that we look at things, and not necessarily.
What's the nuance that I'm missing in this case?
The nuance is that yes, there is international law suggesting that what Russia is doing is illegal.
Russia has broken the international law.
But that's not nuanced, is what I'm saying.
What is nuance? Tell me.
Nuance is to realise that there was more going on before that. Russia was saying, listen, we don't want this country part of the EU, right?
That's not Russia's decision to make.
I understand. But the point is that legally you're right, but I'm talking about nuance. I'm talking about understanding people, not like Chamberlain did, coming back waving treaties and paper, right? Not decision to make and stuff like that. But beyond that, you're actually dealing with people. You're dealing with leaders, but you're dealing beyond that with people, right? People that have complex loyalties to different parts of different nations, different areas. Some, like people in Crimea, for example, some people across Ukraine believe that they are, part of Russia in a sense, right? Since Alexander the Great or Catherine the Great, Alexander the First,
not so great.
Paul the First. Well, I thought Alexander saved Russia, right? Alexander the First. He did.
He should not have. Russia was a rotten country at that point.
Maybe, but point
definitely
right. Fair enough. You may be more Napoleon, a Bonapartist. Who knows, right? It was either or.
Me a Bonapartist.
Well, it was either or. It was Napoleon versus.
Wait, you mean Alexander who fought against Napoleon?
Yeah.
He was described described by the other European leaders as a man-child.
No, that was Paul
Oh
I.
my
That
God,
was his father.
my friend,
was his father.
you need to do research about Alexander. I'm very glad that you mentioned this leader because he's the poster boy for an unhinged authoritarian Russian leader. Nobody wanted to deal with this guy because this guy just wanted to grab territories left, right, and center. The Europeans were like, okay, dude, look, we just opposed Napoleon because
Which
Napoleon.
treaty was he grabbing other than Treaty of Tilsit? Which
Not a treaty. He was grabbing territories. He really
How did
wanted.
he do that?
He wanted to cut territories from Poland.
Do you realise that it was
because
a
his troops were in Poland in that moment.
But Poland wasn't
the,
a country. Poland
it
was
wasn't a
part of
country
Russia.
because the Russians were there.
But why were the Russians there? Catherine the Great.
Because they invaded it. Yeah.
Catherine the Great invaded.
And the
But
other,
what do you mean by he
all
was
of the other
grabbing
countries
territory?
have agreed
I'm not a
to give
pro-Russian
freedom.
person. But I don't
You really sound like one. You really
no, I'm not.
sound like
I
one.
play devil's advocate. If you were Russian, I'd have a.
Oh yeah, I agree with Russia. Here. I think we should consider Russia's unreasonable demands, but you're not a pro-Russian person.
Pro-Russian, bro. I'm
What
way
about the
too
Korean
democratic for that.
Charter?
I believe in democracy hugely. Don't get me wrong. I am completely anti-Russia and anti-war crimes, down to a T. But what I do like doing is using some of my historical knowledge about how worlds change and areas masses change hands, right? To inform some of my nuanced, I would suggest, opinions. And I don't think it's as simple as you're making it out to be.